Hey guys, Brent Hull, Wednesday design video. Windows and scale, okay? How to think about these new houses that need help. Come join me. Okay, so we've got this house, and here's the front of it, and here's kind of how I'm fixing it. We've got a problem with this house in that these windows on the bottom floor are being crushed by this large piece in the back. Now, if you look at this house from the back, it doesn't look that bad, right? And so what's happened is I think because this lot slopes away, they've really built this house to live on the back side of it. Here's the hero. Here's where they want to live. And so this roof line that looks still a little bit big, the dormers are a little bit big, the proportions aren't wonderful, but it's not as jarring as the front. And you realize when you look at it this way, kind of why the front ends up that way, because essentially what's happening is because the lot does this, right? That on the back side, this house looks great, and on the front side, the proportions this way look good, but the proportions this way look weird, okay? And so we end up with this on the front side. Now, there's a lot of general just kind of issues here. If you measure this window, okay, it's the same size as this window. Now, I've always talked about that graduated fenestration, but there's kind of a few things we're going to try to fix here. We're going to fix the scale and proportion of the windows. We're going to fix these dormers. We're also going to fix this entry and this kind of piece here because it's just not right yet. And so there's just a few misses. So there's some material changes, some proportional changes, and we're going to make this house better. There really is no historic precedent for this kind of half moon segmented arch that kicks out over everything, is square. It's a very modern way of approaching kind of this arch. It's kind of jarring and it's weird. We've also got these dormers that have these shutters on them, and so the proportion of the dormer versus the window face is, normally I like it to be 70, 80, 90% window. This is probably 60%, and because of the weird shapes and everything, it looks odd. Because of this roof line, which works on the back side, it doesn't really work on the front side. And so what I'm going to try to do is try to fix this window arrangement and this organization. And then the last thing is, notice that we've got stucco here and a wood ceiling, and then I've got a wood front entry. Now, there's kind of a hierarchy of materials here that the front really should be this elevated piece and should be much richer than it is. And now I've got stucco and this shingle. This wood ends up feeling cheap. It feels like they were trying to save money or something. And so because this wood is a subordinate material to the stucco, we're left wondering, kind of questioning what's going on with this thing. As we look at this kind of the building, kind of how it works, basically what I've done is I have elevated the front, and I built up the front entry here so that it really is a two-story element that looks much nicer, okay? And you'll also see I've got some cut stone in there. By going up these 2 stories, instead of having this opening that kind of slopes down, I'm lifting up, right? And so this one kind of de-emphasizes, like decelerating on a golf swing. It's just kind of wasn't quite there. But elevating this into a 2-story element really kind of gives your eye something to look at. And look what I've done with the windows above. One, I've changed these windows to a French style window. If this house wants to be anything, it's French. And so it's not really anything, but it kind of leans French. And so we're going to try to push it in that direction. So I've gone back with French windows, with coining around those windows to widen these out. So I've increased the size of these things. If you wanted to put a patio out front here, you could make these full doors, which would give them better strength and better appeal. I've just put kind of a little plinth underneath those to kind of widen them out. And so I've gone away from the shutters, I've widened this window, and by I really haven't changed the size of those windows, but I've taken out the shutters and I'm lifting the roof in a proper way with the entablature. So basically what I've done is I've taken these windows right? So here's our French window. Going here, I've given it an architrave, okay? I've given it a frieze, and I've built out the little cornice over top, and then I've put a little arch in there, okay? So now it's got this kind of this classical story here that the proportions look much better, and it still elevates to the same height, but it thins it out. And so now what's interesting to me visually is that what I feared when I was working on this is that the dominant eye detail here is this long horizontal bands, okay, that come in here that make your eye just kind of spread out. So I'm trying to, how do I lift? How do I pick this thing up? How do I make it so that it fits better? One is, fixing that entry, but two, thinning these out and widening the base does lift your eye. And so I've put a little landscape feature over here, a little lattice work thing that may or may not work, but it all of a sudden this thing has vertical height. All of a sudden this house is no longer this kind of long horizontal thing. It's much more vertical. So I haven't changed any of the windows, or I haven't changed the placement of any of the windows. I haven't messed with the floor plan. I've just elevated features on the outside. Now, if you look from the street, looking down on this thing, right, this house looks much more inviting, right, than it did before, all because we have built center focus. You could put a little arch in there if you wanted to kind of highlight this thing, but playing around with this entry totally changes the way this house feels and kind of the way it works and goes together. Look too what I've done with these materials. I'm introducing cut stone. Because we've got stucco and wood basically, I would like to see this being all made out of stone, okay, that whole entry. I would like to see the back of it all in cut stone. And then that would allow you to do cut stone or coining around the windows in cut stone, allow you to do a plinth or a base that goes around this thing in cut stone. It just elevates this house. I mean, this house is on an amazing lot. It is a really nice house. They spent a lot of money on it, so we want to elevate it. And the elevation happens with these materials that I'm choosing. Give it the prestige, right, that it doesn't currently have. So playing around with the windows, playing around with the materials, building height in there, changing to a French style, helping this house be what it wants to be. All, I think, makes big improvements to this house, really changes my perception of it and how you feel about it. Let me know what you guys think.